everyone. Welcome to another episode of Discovering 615. I'm your host, Rob Thacker, and I'm here with my good friend, Branan Logan.
How's it going?
Good. How you doing today, Branan?
I'm tired, but I'm good, man.
I know why you're tired. We're going to get to that.
You got a lot going on.
That's right, you do. Branan is the owner of Harmony Hill Studio, Sparrow Media, and more recently, adding to his accolade, he is the writer, director, and producer of the DocuThriller, The Harmonica Man, which was released yesterday, Monday, or Sunday?
Saturday. And
Saturday.
Released Sunday. Saturday was the premiere with you guys, and then Sunday, first thing Sunday morning, it hit the air.
That's right, because today is Monday.
Yep.
It's been a long weekend, hasn't it, brother?
It's all running together.
Absolutely. So, everybody, I just wanted to introduce you to Branan. Branan, tell us a little bit about how, before we get to the movie, tell us a little bit about how you ended up here in Middle Tennessee and Greenbrier in the Nashville area.
I was a touring country artist for 25 years, and so I was based out of Nashville pretty much that whole time. And so I had a farm in Thompson Station, and then I went to Honduras for 5 years to play music down there. Then went to the Virgin Islands in St. Thomas for 2 years, and that's where I met my wife. And I told her if we moved back to the States, I want to be back in Middle Tennessee. It's been my favorite place to live, about hands down. So
that's great.
So here I am.
That's
awesome.
Here we are. Yeah, here we are. So let's talk about, because like I said, you're newly released, The Harmonica Man. What got you involved with that industry, the social media, the things that you do?
When I was in the industry, the music industry, I got really kind of disgruntled a little bit with the major record labels and the whole process of getting signed, and had several offers to sign, and they wanted to shelf my projects, and I wasn't going to go on tour right away. And I just got, I guess, just disgruntled with that, and I said, I'm just going to start my own record label. So I started Sandbar Records in 2006 with a good buddy of mine, and we ended up hitting the ground running with that. And when I decided to get out of the music industry and settle down and be married and stay home for a while, ended up just kind of putting all my skills and talents together, and said, what can I do to bring all the things I've done with my record label and representing other artists and myself together. And I like to fly drones as well, so I said, well, I'm going to start a real estate photography and videography company. Yeah. With the booming housing market, as you know, right. It's booming around here, and so I figured that's total job security and no shortage of work whatsoever. So I did, and it from there it transpired into doing short commercials for small business, and doing testimonial videos and facility tours, and then I got into doing some product photography, and it just kind of snowballed from there. I kept adding equipment and adding services until now Sparrow Media Services is a full one-stop shop, as you know, for realtors. Yeah. If you want it, if it's real estate listing material, we got you covered. I mean, 100%. But no doubt.
That's the truth. I mean, Branan has shot several things for me. Great job with excellent stuff.
Well, thank you. Well, I really enjoy it, and it's been I guess, something I've always enjoyed doing, but I never really placed a huge importance on it, because music was it just took up so much of my time. I was a songwriter. I came to Nashville as a songwriter, and so it just one of those things that snowballed, and said, man, I actually really enjoy this, and so I just dove into it head first, and just kind of just let it take me where that's the cool thing. I never know what's coming through the front door. When you do media, you never know. I mean, one minute I'm taking pictures of agricultural chemical jugs, and the next minute I'm walking through a mansion taking pictures in Brentwood and flying a drone through the house. It's just like, I never know what's going to happen. So right. I love it. Every time my phone rings, especially when it's a number I don't know, and it's not a telemarketer. If you're a telemarketer out there, take me off your list. Good Lord. My gosh. Like, if Google calls me one more time, I'm going to lose my mind. But true story. But yeah, I love it when I see a number I don't know, and I answer the phone, and they say, "Is this Branan with Sparrow Media?" I love that, because I'm like, it's the start of another client usually, and start of a whole new adventure. And so yeah, I love it.
Awesome, awesome. So you going from musician to videographer, photographer for real estate. Now it's the Harmonica Man, the new release.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that DocuThriller. What is the inspiration
Man.
for that, and how that came together, and everything?
Again, this whole thing just fell in my lap. I mean, just looking at this poster is surreal to me to know that it's a completed project and what all's been involved, because it literally started with a conversation with an older gentleman at a car wash as the train was coming through Greenbrier, Tennessee, and he made a comment about the Harmonica Man, and it had a ring to it, and I said, what's the Harmonica Man? I was new to the area at the time here in Greenbrier, and everybody's come through Greenbrier, Springfield, you know, that the train comes through about every 30 minutes, you know, so it's a hopping set of tracks. I mean, there's never a dull moment. It's always coming through, you know, back and forth. And so it was coming through, and in the car wash, it's super loud because that's like a megaphone.
Oh.
Like, he's blowing his horn right there at the traffic light. And man, when you're in that bay of that thing, you're like, what? Yeah. You know, it's just like, man, so it was rattling. This man and I, our brains were rattling around in our head. But in the process of that, he was telling me about the Harmonica Man, and after the train finished blowing its horn and going through there, and I could hear him again, he starts telling me, you know, there was a hobo that rode the train a long time ago, and that there was a train crash in Cortland, and you know, this is like 80 years ago, but it's been folklore. A lot of the older folks in town have told the young ones not to play on the tracks because of the Harmonica Man kind of thing. It's kind of like Jaws and stay out of the water, you know, kind of thing. And so they figured it'd put some fear in these kids so they wouldn't play on the tracks, you know. And but I went home and I just couldn't shake it. I was like, man, what about this train crash, you know? And so I Googled it, and I thought for sure nothing was going to pop up. But what I found was even more interesting, because only one little article showed up, and it was on a railroad hobbyist page. But it was a copy of an AP article. So I knew my parents used to own a radio station, and so I knew if it's AP, it happened, number one, and you don't see AP on anything unless it actually occurred,
right,
and was covered. Second of all, I could not find any local news articles in any newspaper in the archives or anything. I actually had to pay and go into the National Archives, and I was only even then able to find 4 articles about this train crash.
The train crash. And what was the year that train crash occurred again?
It was September 3rd, 1948, at about 1:40 in the morning, I think.
Oh, wow.
And so this accident truly happened. So then I started looking for any mention of the Harmonica Man or anybody killed on the train, because he said the Harmonica Man was thrown from the train and killed, and couldn't find anything about him. There was no mention of him anywhere. But back in the 1948, that was when railroad travel for passengers, you know, they had tons of freight trains, but they didn't have many passenger trains.
Right.
And so that was just starting to catch on, and that around that time, and so they didn't want any bad publicity for the railroad, and so it's pretty much rumored he was done away with by the sheriff and the conductor on the back in the 40s, and thrown off a train in rural Tennessee somewhere in the middle of the night, and that was the end of him. That's the true part, as far as I can tell. That's
from all the folklore and everything.
Folklore meets AP reports. It's like there was definitely some kind of cover up back then. Not sure by who. So, you know, that's kind of where the movie takes a fictitious turn. And the rest is kind of speculation, and then the rest is just thriller, you know. But it's based on a actually true event.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So talk a little bit about how you got the cast together for this. Talk about the cast too, because this is
super
an interesting group. Again,
Well, it was super cool. It started as I was going to film kind of a short film as a concept, kind of a pilot kind of thing. And I was even thinking maybe, I'll just kind of do like a chapter by chapter series kind of thing or something. Because I really didn't have that much time or experience writing long stuff. I can write a song in 3 minutes, but if you give me, an hour and a half to tell a story, we're going to be here a minute.
Yeah.
I've never had that that leeway before as far as a songwriter. We had to say what we were going to say in less than 3 minutes, you know, as a songwriter. So that was new to me. Never written any books or anything like that. I wouldn't. Growing up, I would have never considered myself. Neither would my teachers considered me to be a writer. Musician, yes, but not a writer now. And so I started sitting down and started writing, and then I reached out to some of the industry professionals I know, and I do know a few that do movies for Netflix and things like that. And I said, man, you know, what do you think about this? And I keep going, you know.
Yeah.
And they kept egging me on, so I just kept on. You know, I'd write some more. I'd send it to them. Here's where, and I'd mark where I left off with them, and they read it. Man, this is getting good, you know, and they just kept going. So before I knew it, we had 58 scenes, I think it was, or 60, right at 60 scenes, and we had ourselves a movie script, and
wow.
They read it and they said, okay, now what are you going to do? You got to cut this, and we have to have something to show people, you know. And I said, well, I don't really know that many people enough to cast a full movie, and I got to thinking, and I said, well, maybe I'll just reach out to some of my friends in the B3 group.
Right.
You know, B3 Business Bonding and Beer. If you're not familiar with them, they're a business networking group out of Hendersonville. Really cool group. It's all young professionals and entrepreneurs, and I met you there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Man, we've just made some really great business connections through B3. They do a lot for the community. They do a quarterly like charities for things and toy drives and all kind of stuff. They're just super great group of people. I haven't had one regret getting involved with B3, and every bit has helped. It's helped grow my business. It's helped everything. So I can't say I could spend an hour with you just telling you all the things that B3 has done for my business.
I think both of us could do that. Probably,
yeah.
So.
And so, but yeah, I started, you know, I went to the B3 group and I was like, hey man, I'm kind of thinking about doing a trailer. I think you were one of the first people I talked to about it, and Dylan Sanders and a couple of them, and they're like just kind of standing around talking. I said, well, I'm kind of thinking about shooting a trailer, and y'all were like, well, yeah, let's do it. And then I started looking at the script. And I'm like, well, Nicole Bell would make a great reporter in this thing, you know. And started looking at it. I'm like, hey, Bart Browder, you want to be a deputy in this trailer thing? Yeah, man, I'll give it a try. So everybody I approached with it was like, yes, count me in, yes, yeah. You know. And so then it's starting to look like a cast. Man, yeah. All right. But then I started to get worried, because then I had talked to everybody in B3, and we had, you know, a good group of cast, but I still had a lot of cast that I couldn't find people for. And so I joined, you know, several of the casting and modeling groups and photography and modeling groups on Nashville, and filmmakers and stuff, and started reaching out. And it was just really awesome to see the whole Middle Tennessee just reach out. And they're like, man, I'm interested in being in this project, you know. And so I met a lot of people that I didn't know before, you know. And so and then they came and they met a lot of people from B3. Exactly. And now they got new friends, and that's been my the coolest thing, I think, is just watching this whole thing just transpire and bring people together, and businesses that would have never met or done in business together, because they probably would have seen themselves normally as competitors.
Right.
You know, I've got one friend that has a business window cleaning service. The other one does resident or commercial cleaning, like in office buildings and stuff like that. So they met, and they're like, well, we should work together, you know. But normally they would have probably been like, I got, you know. So it was really cool. It's been a lot of connections. One of my good buddies, Branan, he met Kara on set, and now they're dating and stuff. So there's been relationships started through this project, and there's just been a lot of cool things happening.
Well, and that's a beautiful story there, because you talk about, you know, bringing community together. Mm-hmm. Man, you talk about that, because everybody I know at the premiere that night, they were pumped.
Yeah.
I mean, excited. I mean,
yeah. Well, it was cool. You know, it wasn't just people too; it was organizations. You know, you got Shalom's on Gallatin that does so much for the community already. You know, this was my kind of way to. We just used their building, and they were very more than gracious. Trey and stayed really late with us that night. I
remember that night.
That was a really late night, but way later than we planned. But you know, he was he was there and custodian of the place to help us kind of get everything set up and closed down and be where we needed to be and let us into where we needed to go. And they just gave us free reign of the place, but my full intent on using that place, Gallatin Shalom Zone in Gallatin, was because it's a community center anyway. So it was really a perfect hub for everybody that was involved in the movie. It's pretty much central to everybody. And Lisa Wright there was just super gracious, and everybody in her office was super gracious to help us out. And so we did that. And then the train museum, that's another cool thing. If you're looking for a really cool family excursion, book tickets on the train and go ride to Watertown and back. Man, I took my whole family on it. We had a great time. And that was the whole reason I reached out to them to use them for the movie, because every penny that you spend on the excursions go toward keeping the trains maintained, these 1940s, 50s trains maintained. And you literally feel like you're taking a step back in time when you step on those trains. It really is cool what they do out there.
That is. I mean, that was amazing. Mm-hmm. Shoot, it was a little warm that day. I'll be honest with you. It was June, but hey, it was a great time. And again, like you said, meeting all kinds of people you'd never meet, developing new friendships. That's so amazing. So, Branan, let's talk about the challenges. What were some of the challenges to the making of this movie?
Oh man, there were a lot. Being my first film, I tried to think of everything. Anybody that knows me knows I usually try to cover all the bases ahead of time and be prepared for anything that can happen. But one of the challenges in the rail yard, especially, we had really high winds, and when we shot that in the wintertime, and so it was February in the train yard, and we had 20-mile-an-hour winds and freezing temperatures, and my tripod head, the fluid head on my tripod, actually froze solid. And so next time I'll be bringing a heating pad to wrap around my tripod and plug it into an extension cord when we're trying to shoot, so that doesn't happen again. It literally locked up. I could do nothing.
Oh man.
The Tennessee Auto Rack, they were really great about turning their facility over. Jared Gaston out there, man, I made a new friend with him too, man. He's a super nice guy and really willing to help us out. He actually helped me walk through kind of the hurdles of getting permission with CSX and what numbers we needed to block off of the box cars so that they're not identifiable, and the railroad police and what's permissible by the railway police, which I never even knew there was a railroad police.
Wow.
Like, that's a new one on me. I was like, wow, So there was a lot of education and a lot of learning curve as far as the ins and outs. I've never hung out around trains or train yards or anything like that. So that was really cool. But it was a cool experience, though, to learn about it, But it was really what really was kind of a blessing was being on a closed set like that with no moving trains. Even though we make the trains look like they're moving in the film, there's a lot of CGI and green screening going on where that train looks like it's somewhere else, but it's not. Or it's moving and it's not. But the whole time, even as cold as it was and unfavorable weather conditions most of the time, it was a safe place for us to be. And they even turned their office over with a coffee machine and all that. So everybody that wasn't shooting on set could go inside and get warmed up. So it worked out. And then the other was shooting in June.
Right.
Everybody had to be in their winter attire in June. Because it's winter time. So
because I remember you telling me that we had to get into a position where shoot the scene with a wreck in June because that wreck occurred in September. So we needed leaves on
you got to have foliage on the trees and things like that. So those little details make a big difference when you're shooting a film. So that was one of the reasons we had to spread this film out and the production of it out to about 18 months to allow for time to edit and time to get those scenes season correct.
Right. So on that note, what advice would you give to someone who's thinking about pursuing something like this?
My next movie, I will have a team. I will construct a team. It was a lot on me. physically, it was very physically demanding. A lot of late nights, early mornings, a lot of loading in, loading out, a lot of running, being on your feet, literally. The cast, they shoot and then they go inside and sit down and the other person comes. As a producer and director, you're on your feet the whole day, every day. And we shot for 6 days straight and then did it the other day at the train yard.
Yeah.
And then we did some B-roll stuff as well at other locations. So really totally, it was about 12 days literally from morning till late evening being on your feet. And so that was a lot. I would strongly suggest also bringing in, I used my own budget for this film. I'm the sole executive producer. There was no other investment at all. So that's another thing that I would strongly suggest. Try to find any businesses that you're going to do any of the locations. So you're already doing advertising for them and putting their business in the movie. That's considered advertising. I would probably try to work out a trade where they invest some money. That way your budget's a little bit higher, so you can pay for different services, like printing services,
right?
And like we had to block out a big window for the dispatcher, so we had to get a full 6 by 8 foot wide map of Robertson County to hang out behind her to block the window, the sunlight coming through the window. So that was a printing cost. There's going to be, you go in pretty much whatever you think your budget is going to be, make it 10 times that, and you're there. That's what this one was.
Right.
So all in a nutshell, that was a big, wasn't necessarily a surprise. I knew it was going to be really hard to figure out what my budget was going to be with this, because it was just so many moving parts and pieces and things. But,
sure.
But yeah, I would definitely form a team and definitely try to find some sponsors that'll help things run a little bit smoother and a little bit faster too. When you've got a budget, that means you can hire the people to come in. Like they can be editing these XYZ scenes while you're out here shooting these, So you can actually streamline your project a lot faster that way. I mean, I knew that going in, but I just didn't have that resource available at the time. But going into the next one, we'll be able to plan accordingly a little bit better.
Okay, so I'm hearing next one. So let's is there some future plans here? Are we going to see, because
we got a lot of future
plans. I don't want to spoil for those that have not seen the movie yet, but
yeah, a lot of
it's left open. So any teasers there? Anything you can kind of hint towards? Or?
Well, I left the scene open like that at the very end because I wanted to leave us some leeway and some options. Everyone seemed to have such a great time in the movie, on the movie set, and it was kind of a bucket list item for a lot of people. And then once they got their feet wet, they're like, "When's the next one?" So they were already asking me, like, "Are we doing another one of these?" And I was like, "Absolutely. If you guys are all in, I'm in. I'll be their biggest champion. I'll keep writing and keep going with it as long as they'll keep showing up and helping me with it. But there is a plan for a second and third Harmonica Man, and then maybe even further than that. I'm not sure yet, but depends on how things go. But you never know how a lot of it depends on the success of the film, and a lot of the success of the film comes from receiving positive feedback from the community that's watching it and the fans that are watching it. So we really we can't say how many we'll do without seeing that. So but the more fans we have out there that are gung ho about seeing another one, that's gonna fuel oil the wheels to get the next one going. So that's how it works.
Exactly. Good deal. So you've got the fans, we got that tease now. So where can fans go to find this, and where is it going to be the first film?
Well, right now, this is what's today's date? I can't remember.
It's Monday, October 14th.
Yeah, we're going to probably let it stay on YouTube at least until Halloween.
Okay,
for free, because the whole purpose of us releasing it in October was to be it's geared toward Halloween and a nice, clean Halloween film that you can, if there is such a thing as a clean Halloween film.
Right.
But there is no bad language. There are no sexual encounters or anything like that in the movie. We kept language very mild.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple of gory scenes, but nothing too tragic and terrible.
Right.
I really wanted to set out to show that, Hollywood has kind of gone the route of terrible language and a lot of just violence that's unnecessary to tell a story.
Right.
I just, me mentally, I've always had a curiosity as to why people are entertained by seeing violence like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so you had to tell the story a certain way. We wanted to tell it to where, yes, the Harmonica Man's come back for vengeance, and he's going to exact revenge on these people, but we don't have to have him be offensive to people or embarrass the main thing was that all the people that were involved with the movie, they own businesses in the community,
Yeah.
and they have to go to the grocery store and see their preacher at the grocery store, and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So, and it's I wanted to create a film that I knew everybody could and be involved with, be proud of, show their mama,
Yeah.
Say, hey, look what I was a part of, and yes, it's gonna. Even my own mother called me and she's like, I love your movie, and it's not because you're my son. She's like, it was great because there was no profanity and it wasn't all this other junk in there.
Right. Yeah.
I call it filler. It was all story.
Yeah.
And it was, even the gory parts, they're like very short because they're not necessary in the film to tell the story,
Gotcha.
So, but that was kind of the whole premise of cutting the movie was to bring people together and make a big project that everybody can be proud of.
That's great.
Be proud to show it off,
That's great. That's great, man. So YouTube right now.
Mm-hmm.
Does it look like it's going to land anywhere else, we hope? Or
Oh, it's definitely going. I actually just finished submitting it to Tribeca in New York for next year. And then we've got Amazon Prime is in quality control with Amazon Prime right now. And we're looking at possibly doing Film Hub. We may not have to do that. If it goes through smooth with Amazon Prime, we'll just leave it at that. Film Hub puts it on Tubi and Hulu and things like that too. They handle, I don't know if they do Hulu, but they do a bunch of different streaming platforms, Freebie. There's a ton of them. I can't think of them offhand, but yeah, Film Hub's good, but you got to pay a pretty hefty price tag. They're what's called an aggregator or distributor of films. But we may not need that. If we can, I feel confident that it's going to be a good movie for Amazon Prime, and once it passes through that, it'll go to Amazon Prime. Once it's confirmed on there, we'll be pulling it off of YouTube, and it'll be for rent or purchase through Amazon Prime.
Great. Well, Branan, and again, they can find it on YouTube. Is there a certain link they need to go to for YouTube right now while it's out there on the YouTube?
The best place to find it right now is on Facebook. There's a lot of buzz on Facebook.
Yeah.
The reason being is that you in a few days you'll be able to go to go to YouTube and type in the Harmonica Man and it'll pop up.
Okay.
But it takes a few days, and with it being just uploaded to YouTube and made public, it takes a minute to work its way up through the search engine. So if you're looking for it right away, immediately. To this podcast, you'll want to go on Facebook and look, either me or you or pretty much anybody that was involved in the movie. They're all tagging and blowing up. But it's really cool. It's very encouraging. It's been shown 238 times within 24 hours.
Oh wow!
So that's a good indicator.
That's a great indicator. That's a great indicator.
It's going somewhere. So.
Well, Branan, thank you for your time. I know you've got a busy day ahead of you, but thanks, brother. Appreciate you. And, man,
my pleasure.
Guys, make sure you, on the search of YouTube, put in the Harmonica Man. Check it out. Enjoy it. Until next time, guys, this is Discovering 615. Thanks.
Have a good one.